What's up, everyone? Welcome in to the Denver Sports Podcast. It's another beautiful Wednesday morning. The snow is falling. It feels like winter for the first time in Colorado.
It does. It's kind of sad.
Sad?
Yep, I know a lot
happy.
of people like it. Yeah, I get it. It's just it's a real hassle.
It is a hassle.
Like when you
It
wake
is a
up
huge
and
hassle.
you have to okay, I have to find warm clothes for today, and I have to think oh, am I going to change into a beanie
Yeah.
for practice? Is this going to be warm enough? Should I have worn another pair of sweatpants over the top, like something bigger, because we're going to be outside watching practice later. The drive down there, you have to budget more time, and then the drive back is going to be even really
I had to put a sweater on my little rat dog.
Right,
you know,
right. Like
keep him warm.
It's a hassle.
It is a hassle. I know. And it's even more of a hassle because those of you who don't know, I cover the Colorado Rockies.
Mm-hmm.
They officially announced a GM hire about 5 minutes into my drive, and I had to pull over and fire off a couple tweets, get the content machine rolling. Like it's one of those days. It's going to be one of those days. I'm excited though. We get to talk about everything Denver sports here on this show. If you're new to this show, that's what we do. We talk about everything Denver sports, as the name suggests. But of course, we have to talk about the hottest team in Colorado, and that was up for debate over the last couple weeks. But I feel like we can finally dub them at least the hottest team in Denver right now.
Yep.
The Denver Broncos, man.
They're don't
just crushing it.
And they've been kind of lucky that the Nuggets have a bit of a losing streak. The Avs had a couple overtime losses in there. They really are the hottest team in Denver.
That's what I'm
which
saying.
is crazy.
Yeah,
it's
it is.
really crazy.
We talked about this a couple weeks ago, and we were like, okay, who has the best chance to win a championship in Denver? And of course, the answer's the Avalanche, the Nuggets, the Broncos are kind of in that mix because their record is so good. But this is before the Chiefs game, and I remember RK was telling us, he was like, I might change my mind after the Chiefs game, and well, the Broncos beat the Chiefs, and then you went on and you won last week, and and it's like, okay, things are still looking as good as we thought they had been.
Right?
Has your tone changed at all? Do you feel like the Broncos might have an even better chance to win a championship compared to the Nuggets and the Avalanche?
So I remember watching that show because Spencer was the one saying,
Spencer
you know
was the
what?
hot
I
take,
think the Broncos are the most likely to win a championship. And you guys are like, no, that's not true. And I was at home saying, no, of course that's wrong. And everybody in the chat was like, Spencer, what are you talking about? Like the Nuggets and Avs, like it was such a bad answer at the time. But as of now, it's kind of looking like the right answer. And I think the sports books would probably say it's still not the Broncos.
Yeah.
I think the Broncos right now are either 10-1 or 11-1 to win the Super Bowl. And I'd imagine Nuggets are probably in the 8 or 9-1. Avs, I'd guess 7 or 8-1. So a smidge behind. But when you're talking about 1-12 versus 1-9 versus, the gap has certainly closed at the very least.
Well, and I think the point that RK was making was that in favor of the Broncos is that if you could have gotten through the Chiefs game, which obviously they did, that the route to the Super Bowl looks a lot more doable for the Broncos.
Right.
Where you're looking at it and you're looking at the teams that you would end up playing, you're winning the AFC, if you just need a couple more cards to fall your way that don't feel that monumental for you to be in the driver's seat of winning 3 games to get to the Super Bowl?
Well, and you're just thinking, could you get a few losses from the Chiefs? Could you get a couple? Could you continue to stay relatively hot so that you could compete with the Colts and the Patriots at the top? Well, and it turns out if you needed 6 more wins past that point, well, you've already gotten 3 more of them.
Yeah.
And so if you needed however many losses from the Colts to feel like you have a chance at number 1, well, you've already gotten more than half of the losses you need. Everything. As a betting man myself, sometimes you make a big parlay and you're like, so a couple nights ago, I needed Spencer Jones to make 3 3-pointers and he had 2 in the first quarter.
Nice.
And you're just like, this is actually going to happen. And so you start looking into the others and it's like, okay, is Cam Johnson going to get these rebounds? And when you have 6 of those things that you need to happen and you get through the first quarter and you're like, 5 of them are like going to happen maybe by halftime. That's kind of where the Broncos are right now, where since right before that Chiefs game, there's like a list, like, can you get one of those games from the Chiefs? Well, they already did that.
Yeah.
And so they're just sitting here at this point with everything in front of them. I'm pulling it up right now, but I'm pretty sure. So to win the AFC, right, the Patriots at plus 400, the Bills at plus 425, the Broncos at plus 450, and there's a gap.
Yeah.
So like this isn't us being biased. It's like, oh yeah, there's kind of these 3 teams. If you really want to throw the Colts in there, maybe you still could, but I don't even think they're making the playoffs at this point.
I know. Colts, what a drop off, man.
Right.
I mean, it's just, yeah.
It's a coin toss for the Broncos.
It is a coin toss. That's a good example. I like to use, since again I cover the Rockies, I like to use baseball examples. For us, we would bet against the Rockies a lot this year.
Oh yeah,
and so you would bet, like the over on runs, and it would hit in like, or you'd be 90% of the way there in like the 3rd inning. The Rockies would have given up 6 runs in the 3rd inning.
Exactly.
You're like, all right, it's gonna happen. It's bound to happen.
And everything the Broncos do, it's just been like that. We're just like, wait, could the Chiefs go like 1-3 in this stretch? And you're just like, oh, they just lost like 3 games in a row, 2, whatever it was. It's just everything is working out perfectly, not just from the Broncos winning games perspective, but also that everybody else who you want to lose games, losing games consistently.
It is weird, and I know you guys have talked about this a lot on the Broncos podcast, but it is weird that there isn't like a true outlier this year in the NFL. There isn't like that dominant, this team's just a horse. Like it's going to be who can beat the Bills, who can beat the Ravens, who can beat the Chiefs. It's like everyone's had some weird losses. Everyone's had weird records. Even a team like the Broncos, who a lot of people still think are frauds, and we can get into that debate as we will be talking about for the rest of the season. Like, it's just weird to see that the good teams, like the Broncos, who have good records, or the Patriots, people are saying, I don't really trust it yet. I don't know if they're the real deal. And then the bad teams, or the teams that don't have the great records, like the Bills or like the Ravens, or even the Chiefs now, they're saying, oh well, just wait till you meet them in the playoffs. Wait till they figure it out. It's like, well, they haven't done it yet.
I don't think you are at this point.
Are we even going to see them in the playoffs? Right.
Right.
Like that's the crazy part.
And those are the conversations. As a Montana fan, got the jacket.
Shout out the Grizz.
It's one of those things where you say like, okay, Montana State beat them to end the season. You're going to play them in the semifinal. You get to see them again. We knew along the way that the odds were that they were going to wind up on the same side of the bracket and play for the postseason the first time ever. Like that was always in the back of your mind. And the same way the Chiefs thing is always in the back of your mind. Like plenty of times on the podcast, we said, we're going to see the Chiefs 3 times this year. Like that's just the way it's going to go. And to be at this point saying, well, Chiefs are underdogs to even make the playoffs is unbelievable.
What a fall from grace.
Somebody asked in the chat, like, do you think the Broncos can win a playoff game? Home teams win in the playoffs a lot. It's about a 2-to-1 ratio that the home team wins in the NFL. Well, and that's just so big. So the idea that even like, okay, Chiefs make it, Chiefs get in, and the Broncos have a bye in the first round, there's better than 50-50 chance the Chiefs are out of the playoffs before the Broncos even play their first game. And that's if the Chiefs get in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, I want to unpack that a little bit because, Eric asks, I think the Broncos win a playoff game. What do you think? If the season ended today, the Broncos would meet up with the Bills in the playoffs, if my math is correct.
Yep.
It'd be a rematch of last year. Do you feel like that would be a good matchup, given what the team has now, based on what the Broncos specifically have now versus what they had last year? Obviously, you've got some big free agent signings. Bo's taken a different step this year, and then the Bills are a different team this year. What do you think that matchup would look like if that was the playoff matchup that we saw, Broncos versus Bills?
So there are a lot of different perspectives you could take to this. The Bills are a scary team. They have Josh Allen.
Yes, they are.
And that's, in that way, you say like, nope, not ideal. But when you're talking about playoff matchups, odds are you're going to be playing a good team. Like that's just how the playoffs work. And so if you're saying like, is it the Bills, is it the Texans, or is it the Ravens? Who would you most like to play? I think there's a strong case for the Bills to be the answer.
Okay.
And again, I wouldn't tell anybody who said that that's the team you'd least like to see out of that group that they're wrong. But it's all just a matter of perspective. But the Bills, they've just been so inconsistent. The turnovers have kind of come and gone throughout the season. The run game is a little bit concerning. But at points, that offensive line has just kind of fallen apart, and they haven't been able to get it going. So the way the Broncos play defense, I think they should be able to handle the run game pretty well. You look at their receiving core, and Matt Collins is a very capable receiver, but it's really Stephon Diggs is the only guy you look at and say like, okay, gotta watch out for him. And for a team with one super elite corner, a team with one kind of, I don't even want to call him like elite receiver, but very good receiver, that matches up pretty well. The only thing that doesn't match up well is that the Broncos haven't so far played very well against mobile quarterbacks, and Josh Allen is one of the best mobile quarterbacks in the NFL. But at the same time, like if you're saying, would you rather play the Bills or the Ravens or the Chiefs could even be in that category. Like Daniel Jones was one of the mobile quarterbacks they struggle with. Like there are so many mobile quarterbacks at this point that you're probably just going to hit one regardless.
And you know what's weird for me? It's a weird feeling that I've found myself feeling, and you guys might relate to this, but I never feel out of a game with the Broncos this year. And obviously the results have proved that, right? The Broncos have won 10 games in which they've trailed. They've, won their last 4 games by a combined 10 points, right? So they're playing tight games. And so when you have this kind of like cardiac experience every time the Broncos are playing, yet they are coming out with a win, they're finding ways to win. I feel like that's invaluable when you get to the playoffs. It doesn't matter who you're playing, whether you're playing, like you said, the Bills, the Ravens, the Chiefs, like the Eagles, like doesn't matter who you face up against. I feel like if the defense can continue to play at the level that they've been playing, where you keep the offense in the game, I don't see why you don't have faith in Bo Nix in those situations. He's been the most clutch quarterback, arguably in the history of the NFL, in his tenure, in his 2 years in the league.
It's totally. I mean, we're going to be talking about that in an hour over on the Broncos show, because it's true. Like fourth quarter, Bo Nix is unbelievable. I made a video about it for our YouTube channel like 3 weeks ago. And I thought it was interesting, and there were a lot of interesting things, but just kind of going back and looking at like, okay, what did Tim Tebow look like, and seeing how like his pass rating kind of changed by quarter. John Elway early in his career before it kind of balanced out, and like who he was in the fourth quarter was kind of just who he became for entire games after that second season. But I'm curious to see whether they can find that consistency. There's also weird things. Like Skip Bayless tried to tell Aqib Talib on one of the shows, like, the one thing that really concerns me is like Bo Nix late in games. Do you really trust Bo Nix? And it's just like, what are you talking about?
He's like, they're hanging on by a cliff. Right. And I'm like, what are you talking about, dude?
That's the guy who's going and winning them the game at the end of all these. That overtime performance, 4 for 4 for 60 whatever yards, has like the first down run in there too. Like it's the kind of stuff that you look at and say like, how is this offense ever stopped? It just
keeps happening. It's one thing if I think it'd be easy if we would see the Broncos trailing, and it's like, all right, you've got a 2-minute drill. Bo Nix has a chance to march up the field and win the game. He gets the football and he goes 3 and out, and you lose the game. Like those kind of things, obviously, would allow the Skip Baylesses to have some ground to stand on. But we haven't seen that.
Right.
We have not seen Bo Nix step up to the plate with the bases loaded in the bottom of the 9th, down by 3, and strike out swinging.
Right.
We've seen him step up every single time and hit a damn walk-off grand slam. So, I get people's concern. I get people saying, we want to be the world beaters. If you have a 10-2 record, yet you're only winning, each game by a touchdown or less, like it needs to be more than that. You're going to need more than that in the playoffs. But the reality is you're still 10-2. And in this league, that means a hell of a lot more than, I don't know, your offense scoring more points in certain games.
Right. It's the NFL.
Yeah.
Every team is good. Like there are no bad teams. Now there are teams that aren't going to win very often because they just aren't. The skill gap from top to bottom is just not nearly big enough to be saying you need to blow a team out. And so like when you go on the road to play a team on Sunday Night Football and both teams are off a bye, it's usually a pretty competitive game.
Yeah.
Now I thought there was a real chance that the Broncos would blow them out. I thought it was probably 50-50, whether it was close win for the Broncos or blowout win for the Broncos. I never really had a doubt that they would lose that game until late in that overtime drive from the Commanders. Not until they got down to like 1st and goal was I like, they actually could lose this one. I mean, that's just the way the NFL works. Like, you go back through and say, 1-score win against the Chiefs, what do you expect? 1-score win against the Raiders, that's one of the ones that gets circled. 1-score win over the Texans on the road, they look like a good team. That's a really, really, really good win. Not just like I guess you did it. That's a really good win. Cowboys, you blew out. Giants, you had the comeback. Like, close win against the Jets, that was in London. Like, weird things happen in London, similar to the Sunday Night Football thing. Before that, you got the 1-score win against the Eagles, good team.
Yep.
Before that, you really have to nitpick like 2 games out of 12 to say like, wait, I'm not sure if this is a team that's built for this.
And I do think a lot of people live in a vacuum too, right? You see them almost lose to the Commanders, and you're like, I'm just getting a little concerned. But I wanted to compare these teams to there's only been 4 teams that have gone 10-2, and I want to compare this current team to those other teams that have also started 10-2 to start their season. We got to hit our first break of the show. After the break, we'll talk about that coming up next. Well, I want to give a huge shout out right now to our friends over at Toyota. Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR, and I got to say, it's still coming down outside, and I got to drive my new 2024 RAV4 in the snow for the first time today. I got my new RAV4 about a month and a half ago, and I've been looking forward to seeing some snow falling because Toyotas are awesome vehicles when it comes to driving in the snow, and it absolutely crushed it. All-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, I switched it into snow mode, and it was perfect. And that's the cool thing about Toyotas is they have so many different choices so that when the weather hits like it is today, you can be prepared. Toyota has all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, they've got hybrids, they've got trucks, they've got SUVs. They've got so many different choices so that you can be prepared for the weather here in Colorado with a vehicle that matches your needs to the T. So if you're in the market to get a new car, a new truck, whatever you're interested in, visit your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you. AutoNation Toyota, Arapahoe and Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson's Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson's Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR. Also want to give a huge shout out to our friends right now over at Brunt Workwear, because I was just mentioning the fact that it's been snowing all morning. You guys probably know that. Well, you got to have some boots, some work boots that are going to help you out whenever the weather gets a little dicey like it is today. And Brunt has their best-selling Marin work boots that are not only built for the toughest job sites, but they're completely waterproof. And I got to say, there is nothing worse than having boots that get wet when it snows outside. You go walk outside, you go walk your dogs, and your boots are just soaking wet. You're shoveling snow. That can't happen. And that doesn't happen with Brunt Workwear and their boots. Whether it's rain, mud, standing water, snow, your feet stay dry, and they've got you covered. And not only do they have the best work boots on the planet, but they also have awesome work gear. They have workwear, so that you can have the clothes, the boots, everything. So you can be prepared when the weather hits like it did today. So with temps dropping and the holidays coming up, it's time to treat yourself or the hardworking man in your life to real comfort. Skip the throwaway gifts. Get him something built to last. Brunt Workwear, our listeners can receive $10 off their entire order today using code DNVR at checkout. That's bruntworkwear.com. Use code DNVR. Order today and let them know you heard it right here on the Denver Sports Podcast. All right, back here on the Denver Sports Podcast, talking all things Broncos and Denver sports, but starting our show talking Broncos because the Broncos are the hottest team in Colorado. And look, I know we're kind of having this eternal seasonal debate of, are the Broncos legit? Are they frauds? Like, what do you make of this team? And I think one of the best ways we can evaluate that is by going back and looking at history a little bit, looking back at the teams that have also started with the same record. It happened in 1997 with John Elway. It happened in 1998 with John Elway. And then it happened in 2015 with Peyton Manning. Obviously, we know that the Broncos won the Super Bowl in 2015, but I wanted to know, and I know this is young, so this is young for you and I. I think we're the same age, right? You're 28?
Yep.
Yeah, so you and I were both, 1997, I was 0, and 1998, I was 1. So I wasn't watching football back then, but right. I know you are a student of the game. You study these types of things.
Yep.
How can you compare the team that we see today, 10-2 right now, with Bo Nix as the quarterback, to the teams that we've seen start 10-2, 97, 98, and 2015?
The interesting thing about this group is that, we haven't seen in the history of the Broncos the team win a Super Bowl in what feels like the middle of an era or even the beginning of an era. I think that's the big thing is you think back to when they've won the Super Bowls before and it's, it's John Elway. You've been watching him play for 15 years. And finally, at the end of his career, he gets over the top and wins again and goes out and like you had essentially like I want to say 16-year build. Yeah, I think he played 16 years. I think years 15, 16, he won the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
but 15-year build right for him to get that first one, and then he does it again. The Peyton Manning thing, we kind of knew that was probably his last season in the middle of it. And again, it was kind of this build where there's the ups and downs, and eventually Peyton Manning, to end the era, climbs and wins a Super Bowl. And this is obviously like a very Broncos unique perspective, because there are a lot of other teams that have just like won a Super Bowl and then kind of ran it back with pretty similar teams for another half decade.
The Chiefs, the Patriots, yeah, tons of them.
But I think that's what makes this one feel so unique. I think why a lot of Broncos fans, I think even myself included, still even struggle to like picture the Broncos winning the Super Bowl this year, just because what's ingrained in us is it takes a long time.
It shouldn't be this easy, right?
Build.
Yeah.
And eventually you work and work and work, and then it pays off in the end. Whereas it's like, it's year 2 of Bo Nix. You could just go do it. You could run it back with the same team next year, and you win the Super Bowl this year, you're going to be one of the favorites to do it again next year. It almost just feels like it doesn't fit.
It feels too easy.
Right.
It feels too easy. I've had the same thing. I think back to just 2 years ago. You had Russell Wilson is your quarterback. Go a couple years before that, and you were looking at quarterback battles
right
every training camp. You were looking at a team that the amount of dead cap space you were facing felt insurmountable. And we're sitting here thinking to ourselves, and just 2 years ago, how will we ever come back from this? How will we ever rebuild? And we figured, it would happen eventually. The Broncos are, historic franchise. Yep. They'll figure it out. You've got a great ownership group that cares a ton. But we figured it would take a while to get even, and again, we're not there yet. You still got to go into the playoffs and make a push and get to the Super Bowl, all those kind of things. But even to get to a 10-2 record, that felt like a decade away, right?
Totally.
And then within 2 years, within 24 months, you're sitting here in early December looking at 10-2 with, a team that feels like it can beat literally anyone, and it just doesn't feel real. It feels like you're kind of scratching your head and that's why I think people get so hesitant when you talk about the Broncos and you talk about, is this team legit? Because I think people just don't believe it yet. Like, they don't believe the reality of what it is. And again, you have to strip off all the emotions, all the other variables involved, and say, look, this team's 10-2 and they've beat some good teams. It's just, is it destiny? Like, I don't know. Like, but it's happening. Whatever it is, it's happening.
That's the one thing that you can't deny is that whether, like, a lot of people look at Bo Nix and say, like, oh, he's just not good enough to win a Super Bowl. And then you look at what is happening right in front of you, and he's pulling games, like pulling magic out of his hat, the final seconds of games, week in, week out, and finding a way to be 10-2. It goes back to the whole, like, you are what your record says you are. Like, all that really matters is what's your record, and when you get to the playoffs, did you win or did you not win? Like, it really is that simple. And the whole, like, I don't know, based on the eye test, it seems like the Chiefs are better. Well, guess what? The Chiefs need to go undefeated the rest of the way, and the Broncos need to lose out the rest of the way in order for them to win that division. So like, it doesn't really matter what they look like or what your perceptions are. All that matters is what happens on the field.
Well, and Felix brings up an interesting point. He said if Bo was lighting it up, it'd be a different story. And you're right, Felix. You're totally right. And again, you talk about the eye test. I watch Bo Nix as a quarterback, and we see it every single game. He will, probably 2 or 3 times a game, he'll have a throw that you're just like, what the hell was that?
Yep.
Like, what, he had that interception. Obviously, we've seen a couple just throws to the bottom of an feet of an open receiver, and you're just like, where did that come from, man?
Right.
Like, what are you doing? And then sometimes on literally the next play, he drops a 35-yard pass in just the pocket of, a pocket of his receiver, and you're like, oh, there it is. Like, that's what we are expecting from him. I just don't think there's the consistency yet. But again, you remember this is a second-year quarterback in the NFL. And so we're reminded of that sometimes. But you have other pieces around the team that fill in some of the lacking gaps that Bo Nix has. Bo Nix isn't a perfect quarterback. No one's ever pretended that he was. But you've got a defense that can keep the offense in the game and can set you up for, hey, here's a 2-minute drill for you guys to work on to go win this ball game. And that's where Bo Nix has been able to step up.
Right. I mean, like any way you slice it, Bo has been one of the least efficient quarterbacks in the NFL this season.
Yeah.
Which is like it's just, there's really no way around it. Like if you take the 33 quarterbacks who've thrown the most passes, he's 27th in passer rating, sitting right between Tua and Carson Wentz. If you just go by completion percentage, he's 27th out of the 33 again. So between Jaden Daniels, which sounds a little bit better,
hey, there you go,
and Joe Flacco, which doesn't sound quite as
nope.
good. Like there are all these different ways that you can kind of go through, and like the volume's pretty high for him. He's thrown the third most pass attempts, and so sometimes you lean. He's being leaned on heavier than other quarterbacks, and so for that reason, a dip in efficiency makes some sense. But in the end of games, he leads the NFL in fourth quarter comebacks and game-winning drives. And because of that, he's a winning quarterback.
He plays well when it matters,
right.
man.
And so like you hope that 3
matters.
years from now, you're figuring out what is making him be so successful at the end of games, or how he's finding ways to convert on 2-minute drills at the end of the first half. And you can kind of build game plans around him that puts him in those situations more often. But again, he's a young quarterback, and we saw more efficiency from him last year. Like we know it's in there. We've seen him hit on deep balls that maybe he hits, and there are a bunch of other perks obviously as well. I mean,
and he has
the fewest sacks in the NFL.
Yeah.
That really helps for a quarterback. We can talk all we want about I don't know, his yards per attempt is 28th of the 33. But if he had one more yard, he'd be sitting in 6th. And if you take out all the sacks and said okay, let's just say total dropbacks, pass attempts plus include those sacks in there, how many yards are you ending up with on average? He's not getting knocked on those, and so it balances out. There are things that are working, there are things that are not working. And again, it's just that we came into this thinking this is a long-term view. This is year 2 of Bo. You're trying to figure out how to make him the best quarterback he can be in year 5. And now we're sitting here saying, well, you're probably going to have a bye in the first round of the playoffs. So
you better take
kind of
advantage
need
of
to
this, man.
speed this up a little bit and get fourth quarter Bo in the first quarter.
And that's a great point. I think the expectations that it's expectations dictate a lot of emotion in anything in life, not just sports. If you come home expecting X, Y, and Z, and something completely different happens, it's going to change your emotional outlook for the remainder of your day. That's the same thing with this season. Our expectation was this is year 2 of Bo Nix. We want to take a step in the right direction. Yeah, we made the playoffs last year, so we got to make the playoffs again this year. But now it's you're not just making the playoffs; you're getting to buy. You're Super Bowl bound.
Everybody's coming to Denver, and in Denver, you feel like you should beat anybody.
Exactly. So the expectation part of it is huge. I also think you just have different tools to work with this year that you didn't have last year. You had some free agent signings that have been big this year. I wanted to kind of dive into that a little bit deeper, real fast. Do a little stock up, stock down, and kind of ask you in general: is there a specific player that you've seen, maybe even just in this last week, but you can go as far as this season, that you are big stock up on, aside from Bo Nix, offense, defense, stock up on this year going into next week?
I'll go based on last week, Evan Ingram. I've got video dropping later today about why I think it's Evan Ingram season. I think, to me, there are 2 cards that are left for Sean Payton to play. It's one of the things about the NFL is that the team that you start the year with is not the team you end the year with. There's a lot of growth and changes and injuries and young guys getting subbed in, and especially Super Bowl champions. You go back and look, like the Eagles last year, first 4 games of the season, they're a pretty balanced team offensively. 30 passes minimum for Jalen Hurts in every game, and he never had a 90 or better passer rating. He's throwing it efficiently. They're throwing it quite a bit. And so at that point, everything's going badly. They decide to make a little bit of a change and say, we're going to start leaning on the run game because what Saquon's doing is working. The rest of the way, they bump Saquon's carries up by 20%. And all of a sudden you have this dominant offense, and it helps Jalen, who only throws the ball 30 times in one more game the rest of the season, including the playoffs, only has one more passer rating below 90 the rest of the season. So you just find this kind of formula that works. They sub Cooper DeJean in during the bye week, immediately upgrade the defense, and then he goes on to win Super Bowl MVP. So I think there are 2 cards left for Sean Payton to play. One is Evan Ingram. You find a way to kind of build this offense around him. I got into a whole bunch of the tight end stats and how things in the playoffs in particular, tight ends have been incredibly effective. Again, going back to the Eagles last year, it wasn't A.J. Brown who led them in receiving yards in playoffs. It wasn't Devontae Smith. It was Dallas Goedert, the tight end. And that's kind of been the story over and over and over again. So I think this time of year, you kind of lean into that, especially with J.K. Dobbins gone. I think we saw the first part. And then the last card, you run Bo more. That's just something that, like, once you get to the playoffs,
you keep hearing it. Yeah.
Once you get to the playoffs and you're not so worried about getting him hurt and the longevity, that's when you say, there's 6 or 7 carries figured out per game right there. And so the loss of J.K. Dobbins, maybe you mitigated a bit. But I think stock up as of right now, what we saw the Broncos do with Evan Ingram last week, I think is a sign of kind of at least what they're trying to do going forward.
Oh, I don't disagree with you at all. We don't have a ton of time before our next break, but I got to say, Hufunga's my guy. I mean, he's been incredible, huge pickup. Every time, running back touches the ball, I feel like he's involved on the play defensively. He was getting Palomalu references by Collinsworth on the broadcast, which was insane. But yeah, he's been crushing it. So I'm excited from what I've seen from him. But I want to know who you think the biggest threat in the AFC is. I saw people talking about this on social media yesterday, and I wanted to get your take on this. So we got to hit our next break. After the break, who's the biggest threat to the Broncos in the AFC? That's coming up next. Well, I want to give a huge shout out right now to our friends over at New Built Construction, because we know this is a crazy time of year. Weather gets a little intense. It's snowing right now, and you got to be prepared if you own a home for the worst case scenario, for the emergency. I know it's not fun to talk about sometimes, but it happens, and you got to have a company like New Built Construction that is on call 24/7 when an emergency like that happens, whether it's water damage, fire damage, mold removal, repair services, commercial projects. They have you covered. They are incredible. Their customer service is great. And like I said, they are available 24/7. They have their licensed general contractors who can help with any project, big or small. So like I said, even if it's just something to do with a little snow damage or something with some fire, mold removal, whatever it is, they have you covered 24/7. They are true DNVR fans. And we're so excited that we've partnered with them because they do incredible work. So when that home emergency hits, New Built Restoration and Construction will be there. Go to Newbuilt, that's NUBILT.com, or 720-903-4254. Again, that's 720-903-4254. Let them know that DNVR sent you. Well, I also want to give some love to our friends right now at Shady Rays, because I know it's a little cloudy outside, not very sunny, but Colorado, it's the state of 360 days of sunshine, and I feel like winter is like an underrated sunglasses season in Colorado, because you think, oh, it's going to be snowing a lot. There's snow on the ground. But no, when you go outside and there's snow on the ground and it's sunny, I feel like I need my sunglasses even more than I do in the summer. And you got to use Shady Rays, because Shady Rays is the best sunglasses. You can choose from so many different designs. They look great. They feel great. And they do exactly what you buy them for. They're just great sunglasses. And the cool thing about Shady Rays is that if you lose them or you break them, even on day one, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair. No guilt trip, just replacements. And we all know how easy it is to lose sunglasses, to break sunglasses. So you gotta check out our friends at Shady Rays, because they are truly the best when it comes to getting the sunglasses so that you can be prepared for the winter sunshine, as weird as that is to say. We've teamed up with Shady Rays right now to bring you an exclusive offer. Head to shadyrays.com and use code DNVR for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades, rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. All right, who's your pick? Who's the biggest threat to the Broncos in the AFC right now? Is it the Patriots?
I'll go with the Bills.
It's so confident
there's so
in your
many
order,
cases.
in your answer.
So in terms of just the number 1 seed, it is the Patriots, because right now the Bills have 4 losses. Patriots, Broncos have 2. In order for it to not be the Patriots, who are the biggest threat for the 1 seed, it would have to be the Bills, who surpassed them in the division, which would mean the Broncos need to lose at least 2 games, and the Bills need to win out. Or if the Bills lose 1, the Broncos need. And I don't see a world in which the Bills actually pass the Broncos. So I think that is the tempting part, is that, like, if you're talking, is going to New England tougher than Buffalo coming to Denver? That might be the case. But even there's a chance, the Broncos just pass the Patriots, and that game's in Denver too. So I look at the Patriots and say they're a good team. with a very good young quarterback. Like a quarterback who in a lot of moments has kind of carried them, at least offensively. And they have some explosive players on offense, and then the defense is just really, really good. Built similarly to the Broncos in some ways, but just probably not quite as developed on that side. And that's why I think the Broncos are probably a better football team, assuming Drake May doesn't. He's one of those quarterbacks who's capable of being a superhero. He's similar to Josh. When the Patriots beat the Bills, it was basically because Drake May was more Josh Allen than Josh Allen was. Like he was making all the crazy throws on the way to the ground. And so Patriots don't scare me though. Like I think the Broncos are just as good. The Bills have their flaws. But Texans almost scare me the most because that
defense. I know. No, this is the thing. I feel like people outside of Denver, outside of Colorado, non-Broncos fans feel the same way about the Broncos as we feel about the Patriots. Like, I feel like they look at the Broncos like, again, it's the whole legit versus fraud argument, but like they look at the Broncos like, come on, they're not that good yet. Yeah, they're 10-2, but they're not that good yet. So are the Patriots underrated? I mean, underrated, that feels weird to say when tough. You're 10-2, but but you get what I'm saying, right? It's the same argument we're making with the Broncos. Like we're trying to argue with non-Broncos fans saying, look at our damn record. Yeah, these games have been close, but we're kind of underrated, right? Despite the record, the Broncos are not being given their flowers yet because they've had some weird games. We've had close finishes and all these kind of variables. Are the Patriots the same as that?
I think so. I think that's the tough part is people say like, oh, the Broncos aren't that good. It's like, well, all that matters is how good you are relative to the teams that you're competing with in the AFC. Mm-hmm. So when you just look through that and say like, okay, the Broncos aren't that good, like that's a statement you can throw out there, but what does it really mean? Does it mean you're not as good as the Patriots? Does it mean you're not as good as the Ravens, not as good as the Bills? Because I think honestly, all these teams might just fit into the same bucket. And maybe you throw the Texans in there. Maybe the Texans need to prove it a couple more times before we're ready to throw them in there. But I think that you kind of look at the Patriots, the Broncos, and the Bills and say like, okay, you're certainly in that group. The Bills maybe holding on a bit because of like legacy and the capability we've seen from them in the past and the belief that, maybe they'll stop having the worst run defense in the NFL.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's kind of tough to to say that is the likely thing that's going to happen. Because if they just had like the standard run defense they'd had the past few years, there's a good chance that they would be at least right there with the Broncos and Patriots, if not a step in front of them. But like it's just because it's Josh Allen and we've seen that team win before that you give them the benefit of the doubt, and you don't give the benefit of the doubt to the Broncos or the Patriots because they haven't earned it, because the Broncos haven't had a playoff game where you say like, oh my goodness, look at what they're doing. Like that's the next step. Whereas the Bills, the Ravens, there's just like a track record that is worth like bumping them up one tier, and that probably puts them in about the same tier as the Broncos and the Patriots.
Yeah, a great comment here in the chat. Our biggest threat is us, and I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And I actually think, if we're being completely honest, this spans beyond just the Broncos. This is the Avs and the Nuggets as well.
Yeah,
I had asked this when I was talking to Harrison Wind on TDSP last week. And I'd said, yeah, what's the biggest threat to the Nuggets? And he's like, we are, right? Like, the Nuggets can beat anyone in the NBA. You can. I think the Nuggets at their best beat OKC at their best in 7 games. But the biggest threat to the Nuggets is health, is players stepping up in the key moments, and that's the same thing with the Broncos. We've seen the Broncos go out and stomp on the teams that they should stomp on, like the Cowboys. We've seen them beat the good teams. We've seen them play close games and win those close games. And we've seen enough to say when the Broncos put it all together, they should be unstoppable, right? We've seen enough. Now, that's obviously not sports. You never know what's going to happen.
Right.
But I do think when you look at these teams and you throw the Patriots in there, the Jaguars, the Ravens, the Chargers, Colts, Bills, all those teams in the AFC, I don't see a team in there that stands out to me that's like, they're the ones. We're circling them on our list.
Totally. And again, like the Ravens have plenty of flaws. Like this is not the same run game we've seen from them. There's all sorts of things. We talked about the Bills' run defense. The Patriots and the Broncos lacking some playoff experience and some which is a real thing. And that's why if somebody wants to say like, I don't believe in the Broncos, then like, I get it. I get the reasons. And if somebody wants to say I don't believe in the Bills, I see exactly why that would be as well.
Yeah.
But if you want to say like it's Josh Allen, sure.
Yeah.
Then you can sell me on that. If you want to say the Broncos always win late in games and the defense is incredible, and sure, you can sell me on that as well. I saw 2015. I think it's just when you just throw the blanket statement like the Broncos aren't that good, they're overrated. It's like, okay, again, relative to what? Relative to the undefeated Patriots? Yeah, sure, maybe they're not that good. Like relative to like the rest of the AFC this season? Yeah, I mean there's no case that they aren't at least in that same tier as anybody else in the AFC, regardless of whether you value the experience or what you've seen in years past from these teams at their best, or what they are very much just as much at the top of the AFC as anybody.
Yeah, I know. No, I think we're in a good spot right now, man. It's obviously exciting that we even get to have this conversation right now. I don't want to dive too deep into, the rest of the show with Broncos, because you guys have your Broncos show coming up. What, 15 minutes, 30 minutes?
34 minutes.
34 minutes. There you go.
34 minutes.
This has just been a fun NFL season. Our expectation again was that this was going to be hopefully a building block on future years, and here we are.
So, and that was getting back to what we were talking about earlier. The timeline is the thing that's off. Because again, you get rid of Russell Wilson, you accept that this has to be a rebuild, you have to move on from Justin Simmons, you save the money on Jerry, the bunch of those decisions. We were looking at next year as the year where it's like, okay, you actually get to field the football team. Like that's when you're trying to be competitive again. And last year they made the playoffs and just changed this whole timeline into something strange. It's important to remember. So the Broncos' biggest cap hit this year, $23 million for McGlinchey, then $14 million for Zach Allen, $13 for Sutton, $13 for Bowles, $10 for JFM, everybody else under 10. They also have to account $32 million for Russell Wilson this season.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think about, given that they're this good, like $8 million more than anybody on the roster. And there's only 5 guys with a third of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's you were not supposed to be this good this year.
Yeah. As I said, got to enjoy this time. Well, speaking of enjoying this time, I always say, if you guys have watched TDSP before, you know that one of my biggest points of emphasis is this is the golden era of Denver sports. It's why I love doing this show. And I never want to take that for granted, because one day we're going to look back and we're going to say, Jokic is no longer playing on the Denver Nuggets. MacKinnon is no longer playing on the Avs. Bo Nix is no longer the quarterback of the Broncos. And hopefully there are new people that have stepped up and can give us new exciting moments. But this is truly the golden era of Denver sports. So we got to have this conversation, because I saw someone bring this up on Twitter, and I was like, this is a TDSP topic. We're very young, we're very early into these seasons for the Avs and the Nuggets, but two teams that are very much headed for the playoffs with two players that are playing at the peak of their game in Nikola Jokic and Nathan MacKinnon. So it begs the question, who is more likely to win an MVP in their sport this year, Jokic or MacKinnon?
That is a tough one, because Jokic is kind of like the status quo.
Yeah.
Like when you're talking NBA MVP, the conversation is, okay, it's Jokic and who? And did the guy who isn't Jokic do enough to kind of take that MVP from him? And that's a very unique situation to be in. Nathan MacKinnon has 46 points. There's second place is 40. He has 22 goals. Second place is 20. The plus minus, just like the results when he's on the ice, 32. Second is 29, and that's Kale. Third is 25. That's Arturi Lehkonen. Third, there's actually a tie.
MacKinnon is doing some
also
crazy
25.
things.
Number 5 in NHL plus minus, Devon Taves. It's all Avs. Like the
They're
team
a bunch of world beaters,
the
man.
best team in so many ways, and he's not only the best player on the best team, he's also the best player on the best team with more points significantly and more goals than anybody else in the NHL. And so I think as of right now, I might go MacKinnon, even though it seems like it might be a mistake to ever not pick Nicole in this conversation.
Yeah.
Honestly, I might say both is more likely than neither.
That would be another.
I think
really
both is
cool.
more likely than neither.
Okay, that's a good
I
good
wonder
take.
what the betting odds are.
Look that up, because it's interesting. And actually, we got to pause. We're at the 30 mark. We got to pause real quick for our last break of the show. After the break, I'll give you my take on this, because I have some perspective I want to share with you guys. So we'll pause for a quick second. All right. Who is more likely to win the MVP in their respective sport? Nikola Jokic in the NBA or Nathan MacKinnon in the NHL? Now, I think if you're talking based on who is the best player in his specific sport, who is just above the competition in their respective sport, it's Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic is yes, MacKinnon is doing insane things in the NHL, but Nikola Jokic is doing more somehow. He's changing the game of basketball. He's pushing the game forward in different ways. MacKinnon is just an incredible talent that we're seeing. He's a force. Yeah, exactly. But you've got Connor McDavid still in there. You've got like other guys who are kind of in that same category. MacKinnon's just, you could say, is maybe a little bit ahead of those guys this year right now. Nikola Jokic is a unicorn. He's something we've never seen in the NBA. However, if you're asking the question, who is most likely to actually win the MVP this year, it's got to be MacKinnon in my opinion, because I think the NBA, there's too many other variables outside of just being a good basketball player that goes into being the NBA MVP, whether you like it or not. The NBA MVP, there's voters that don't want to see Nikola Jokic win his 4th MVP. There's narratives that get brought into there. There's voter fatigue. There's all these other kind of things. I feel like the NHL is very cut and dry. If you're the best player in the sport, you're going to win it. And yes, things can happen. I see, MacKinnon was already robbed of one Hart Trophy in 2018. Like, things happen. Absolutely. Where we can disagree or agree on, where the trophy went. But I just think the NBA, there's more levels to that than there is the NHL. And I do think MacKinnon is doing he's a little bit, this season specifically, he's a little bit further ahead of the pack. I think MacKinnon might win it this year. I think he might be the one. And not to say that Jokic isn't deserving or isn't the best player in the NBA by far. I just think there's a lot of other variables in the NBA that cause him to miss out on those.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so as well. And looking at the betting odds, so right now Nikola's plus 150 to win NBA MVP, gives him a 40% chance. Right now, McKinnon's at plus 175, which gives him a 36% chance.
Okay, so it's Jokic on paper.
Yep. And I was just kind of curious. So I figured, again, it's been a while since I did a statistics class, but by my understanding, that means that there's a 64% chance, I believe, that either one of them wins, that you get one, but only a 14% chance that both win. So, wait, I wanted a percentage of neither. That's what I want. I want both versus neither. That's what it was. It was a 38% chance that neither wins.
Okay.
A 14% chance that both win. So the sportsbooks would disagree with me that when I say that both is more likely than neither, but I think I stand by that. I mean, as a fan, I stand by that. It's so tough for me to see a world where neither Nikola nor Nate wins MVP because they're both just so dominant.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. But it's why I think MacKinnon will win it. I feel like there's a better chance for him in the NHL.
Team is so good.
The team is incredible. The players around him, like you said, the players around him are elevating him, and he's just doing things that are above and beyond what other players are doing. Now, again, I still stand on the fact that I think Nikola Jokic is better in comparison to his peers in the NBA than MacKinnon is. But MacKinnon's having that kind of season, and like Felix says, voter fatigue for Jokic is always a thing. Yep. I think it's going to be MacKinnon this year. But it is an interesting debate. And the Nuggets are not playing well right now, but Jokic is still playing lights out. Hey, we're having this conversation about are the Broncos real or are they a fraud? What do we think about the Nuggets? The Nuggets have lost 4 straight home games. Yes, they're still a very, very good team. But are they as good of a team as we've been saying? Is this just injuries? I mean, and you know that you're missing Christian Brown. You know that you're missing Aaron Gordon. Is it just the simple fact that injuries are, pretty much taking out the Nuggets' ability to compete at home? Like, why are they losing to teams they shouldn't be losing to at Ball Arena of all places? It's a tough question, obviously, but what's your opinion on it?
It has to be. I mean,
it has to be, right?
So the thing is, the defense has been gone. So the offense still looks good. They're finding ways to score. They've got a bunch of guys they can sub in. You don't have Christian Brown. You see more minutes for Tim Hardaway. Cool. That you're not losing any scoring in that trade-off. You're just losing defense. And I think across the board, when you're down Aaron Gordon, when you're down Christian Brown, those are your 2 best defenders in your starting lineup. And particularly in a defense that's built around in some ways protecting Nikola Jokic. I think Nikola himself is not a bad defender. He's a very smart defender. He makes plays defensively. He plays passing lanes well. He tells guys where to go. He finds a way to make himself a positive defender, even if he's never going to be a guy who's like a rim protector. Now, what he's missing, because it's the rim protector thing, is that he doesn't clean up for the mistakes of others around him. And so that's why when the Nuggets build a defense, you need the point of attack defenders to make sure you're not just getting guards driving downhill on Nikola, because that's not what he's there for. And so when you invest in defense, you invest in guys like Christian Brown who just stay in front of a guy on the perimeter. Aaron Gordon, same thing. And when you lose those two guys, it just totally changes how this defense is shaped, and it puts Nikola in a tough spot so that he becomes exploitable, and everything just kind of spirals from there. So I kind of throw this all out. Like last time we saw that entire group together was that Rockets game where you go on the road. I think at the time the Nuggets are 11-2 and maybe the Rockets are 10-2. It's a big battle. Rockets fans are hyping it up as their chance to prove things. And the Nuggets just play incredible basketball and even close it out after the hamstring flares up for Aaron Gordon, which is why he's no longer on the court. So whenever we've seen them healthy, they've been dominant. Whenever we've seen them without everybody, they've been like a better than 500 team, but not significantly so. And you can see exactly what the issues are.
Yeah, the only thing that kind of concerns me a little bit, and you can hear this from Jokic when he talks to the media after, they just lost the Mavericks, and he talked after that game and he said, look, we need to be playing better. Like this isn't acceptable. Yes, I understand. Brown and AG, huge defensive losses. There's a reason you gave up 40 plus points in the second quarter, but you're playing teams like the Mavericks.
It's true.
And you're playing them at home.
Yep.
And I understand that you have a bit of a disadvantage because of the injuries, but you still have, you went out and got depth this offseason. That was your entire purpose, was to go out and get depth. You did that. And now here you are, going up against teams that you should be beating, even if you don't have a couple of your key pieces. That's where I just find a little bit of concern. I do think there is a motivation aspect of this from some of the bench players defensively to just kind of say, hey, we got to step up. We need to kind of kick ourselves in the ass a little bit and get back into this groove. Even without Brown and AG, you should still be winning those games against the Mavericks. You shouldn't be giving up 42 points in the second quarter against Dallas. Yes, if you're losing close games to, I don't know,
you
the
lose
good
by
teams.
3 to the Spurs.
Yeah,
you
the
lose
Spurs,
by 5 to the Kings.
Fine.
And then you lost.
That makes sense because you're missing 2 legit guys. But I
But
just
then the Mavs one stings. But and then at the same time, I can't say I don't know, they were up 21-4 at one point. And there are 2 ways to look at that, which is how do you let that fall apart? And the other way is, and there's just the natural taking your foot off the gas when you play a super, let's just be kind and call them an ass team. Yeah. And you're up by 21-4. Those games, the NBA just tend to kind of fall back. I can't be concerned by what I've seen at this point. And honestly, I don't, assuming they just kind of hover around 500 in this stretch without CB and AG, I'll probably just continue to throw it out and say it's not really, we'll see what happens when they're healthy and down the stretch, because we've just seen too much good basketball when they get to play how they want to play for 100%. Me to be upset.
No, I totally agree with you.
Yep.
We got 6 minutes left on the show, and I want to give you a chance to talk about this because I know you are a big Rockies guy. You got your upside down Rockies hat.
Yep.
Rockies did just hire a new GM. They have a new president of baseball operations now, just made official. They hired Josh Burns, I believe his name was, if I remember correctly. Burns as the new GM. He was the executive vice president of operations for the Dodgers for the last 11 years. Many people, myself included, on paper say this is a good hire. I think this is I mean, anytime you can poach a top executive from the Dodgers,
right?
Huge. He's been the head of scouting, development, all of the things that the Dodgers do incredibly well. He worked in the NL West as a GM for the Diamondbacks, the Padres. He used to work for the Rockies way back in the day when I was 2 years old, but left to go work for other teams. What do you think? Is this a new step for the Rockies? Are you feeling better? Obviously, they're years away from being competitive again. But what do you think about this new front office?
I like it. So I'll start by saying I wasn't all that interested in who the GM was. I kind of figured it would be whatever. And then it pops up oh, Josh Burns, interesting. And then the first thing you see is, oh, he played for the he was in the part. He was a part of the Rockies front office. You're oh, Well, I know what the reaction to this is going to be. And
Trigger
then you
words,
Google
of
him
course.
and you're just like, wait a minute. He's the executive vice president of baseball operations for the Dodgers.
For 11 years.
This sounds like he's taking a demotion in a lot of ways to come to, like, how are you actually getting more money from the Rockies than you were from the Dodgers? And it's like, I guess so. That's pretty cool. And I hate the Dodgers, as we all should, as Americans and even Canadians after what they did to the Blue Jays. There's nobody except for people who like live in LA or are currently being paid millions of dollars by the Dodgers who
or the
should
culture
like the
queens
Dodgers.
that just like the logo.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. So with that said, they probably, what they are known for is going out and spending a lot of money on players.
The Dodgers, you mean, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And that's how they go and buy their championships. It is true, even as a Dodgers hater, that they do a really good job of drafting and developing. And that's kind of the core of everything that they do, is that they have this kind of constant fill of good players. And it's nice that when it's like, oh, who's our first baseman of the future? Oh, he didn't work out. Let's just go get Freddie Freeman. It is nice to have like that cop out at the end. But it's been 11 straight years that they've ranked top 10 in the farm systems.
Yeah, they're top 5 right now.
Right.
They have the best team in Major League Baseball, and they have a top 5 farm system.
And so if you want to go poach the guy who has been in charge of the drafting and developing for them, I love that. And again, like, it helps. Like, what would the Rockies farm ranking be if they weren't so bad that they had to keep calling up these 24 and 25-year-olds when they're not ready? Like, if they could just have a bunch more guys in the minors and the ranks. And when you're the Dodgers, it's the reverse, because guess what? You've got Shohei and the all-star roster essentially as your major league roster. So you don't need to like call these guys up. They stay down there longer. They get to count as farm players longer. So the numbers get a little bit skewed. But still, like, that's a great culture. Obviously, he's proven to be good at the things that you're bringing him here to do. Now, I would imagine his weaknesses are he's never traded for a player. Or no, I guess he was GM before, wasn't he? So he does have experience.
You talking about who? Josh?
Josh Burns,
Yeah, he was GM of both the Padres and the Diamondbacks.
So he does
in the
have
NL West,
experience on the free agency and draft side of things as well.
He was
a
also
little bit older, but interesting.
He was the assistant GM of the Red Sox in 2003. Or he got hired as the assistant GM of the Red Sox in 2003. They went on to win the World Series in 2004, a year after he was there. And Theo Epstein, the famous GM for the Red Sox, credited Josh Burns with being pivotal in building that World Series team. Right? So like, here's the thing. Look, and I'm the baseball guy here. I do the Rockies show. Hank is also a huge baseball fan, so we're very knowledgeable when it comes to the baseball stuff. The Rockies are doing things so much differently now than what they've been doing for the last forever. And that's where I feel like things might be changing a little bit. Again, we have to wait and see. It's just a waiting game. We got to wait and see. And it's not going to happen next year, folks. So if you're expecting 2026 to be a turnaround season, these new front office people are still going to have to work in 2026 with the players that Bill Schmidt and the former administration built for them. So it's going to take years to turn this around. However, with that being said, you have a front office that's consistent of a president of baseball operations who has a movie made about him, the movie Moneyball. He's Jonah Hill, basically. I mean, this is a guy who's changed the game of baseball in data and analytics specifically. And then you have now this GM who's a veteran GM who's been in the league forever. He's won with the Dodgers. He got 4 World Series. He's been on big teams, small teams. He's jumped around, and he's now your new GM. And you have no longer Dick Monfort calling the shots as the owner. You have Walker Monfort, his son, who, is seemingly more willing to speak with the media, be transparent. He was literally on our show here in studio yesterday.
That was transparent.
He was very transparent. So, like, look, again, we're going to have to wait and see. But it is different than what we've seen the Rockies do in the past.
Totally. And I liked what he said. We're probably not spending all our money on one guy. We're going to go sign a few guys.
Yeah, we got to get a bunch of guys.
There's some frisky names out there, and I'm excited. I'm a believer that Luis Arias could be a Rocky.
Oh God!
He's just going to be so.
That would be a one guy thing. No, he's not.
He's going to be like 12. We'll have opportunities to talk real quick.
I love it.
One thing on the Avs, just in case some people may not be tuned in. So they've won 12 of their last 13. Okay. One loss was a shootout. There are 6 teams in the NHL that have a double-digit goal differential, plus double-digit goal differential.
Yeah.
Only 6 teams. The Rockies are at 50, plus 50. Like, you're talking like double digits, like, oh, they're squeaking by at 10, plus 50. The Avs have 11 more goals than any other team in the NHL. They've allowed 10 fewer goals than any other team in the NHL.
Yeah.
Like, the numbers here are ridiculous. This is one of the best starts in the history of the NHL.
Yeah. Oh, it's
unbelievable.
incredible.
They're winning the cup.
They better. We had that debate on who's got the best chance.
Also, maybe the
Avs
Rockies
came out
pull
a
a
lot.
Broncos and maybe the return doesn't take too long. Oh, less than 100 losses this
for
year,
my-
500
as a
next
fan
year,
and for
playoffs the year after.
As a fan and from the basis of I do this for a living, I would love that. I would absolutely love that.
I think I'm ready to turn this logo sideways.
Upside down, yeah.
No,
maybe-
no longer needs to be upside down, just sideways.
just a little sideways CR. I love it.
Not
All
right
right,
side up.
Thank you guys for hanging out. You got to get to the Broncos show because you got like 14 minutes. If you guys want to hear more Broncos talk, Hank, Zach, and the company, you guys are all doing Broncos talk coming up here in just about 14 minutes. So thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next week right here on the Denver Sports Podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.